In this segment, we're going to be talking about transformations, and I'll be talking about translations, rotations, and reflections. So I constructed a shape here, kind of flag looking, and that's going to be my shape that I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing I want to talk about is making a translation. So I've made my shape, and now I want to tell it to translate. And to do that, I'm going to make a line segment here, and I'm going to make a translation line, and I'm going to click from here to here, and I want to mark that as a vector. And so you saw the little dashing line saying that this is the translation that I want it to do. So now I'm going to take my shape, and I'm going to go up here to the computer and say, please translate that shape. And I want to use the vector that I just marked down here. So I say translate, and there it is. And I'm going to change its color just so it stands out a little bit more. So now I've taken my original shape and I've translated it according to this. And if I take this and I move it further, my translation moves further. And I can measure from this point to this point, and we'll find out that it's the exact same distance as this point to this point. So there's a horizontal translation. If I bring it so the two dots down here at the bottom are exactly over top of one another, my two pictures are on top. And if I want to translate it in a vertical position, it translates up for me. And if I want to do it at an angle, it allows me to do that. So I have both my up and my over all in one. And we can talk about doing that going up and over, or just going straight over. It gives me the same kind of translation. So there's my translation horizontally, vertically, and on a diagonal. Students can see that the orientation stays the same. It doesn't flip around. It stays its exact same shape. Its size doesn't change. It's just moved. It's a slide. So another name for a translation can be a slide. So now I'm going to do a basic rotation. So to do a basic rotation, I want to create a mover, just like I did here, that's going to tell me how much I want to cause it to turn or rotate. So I'm going to again take my segment tool, and I'm going to create a segment that goes from here to here and from here to here. And I've written it this way because I'm just going to talk about it from the 12 o'clock position, rotating it clockwise or counterclockwise. So I go down here and I mark that as my center. And then I mark this to here, and I'm going to mark that angle as my rotation. And you saw the little movement that happened here. And so now when I go to do my movement, I will be able to tell it to move a certain amount. So I go to my original and I tell it to transform. I want it to rotate according to my angle that I marked here, here, here. And so I'm going to say rotate, and there it is. It's rotating. And as I change this, you can see how much it's rotating to. So if I'm directly back up to where I started with, down here with my angle, it starts where I want, and I'm going to rotate it, I don't know, about 45 degrees or so. And I see that this line here is 45-degree angle with that line there. If I want to rotate it to about a 90-degree angle, then I can see that this angle here to this angle here is a 90-degree angle. And it's just rotating. It's rotating around this point here. And so I just mark the angle on there, so we can see that if I start it right on my line here, it's at 0 degrees, and as I rotate it through my angle, the image rotates as well. So I'm at 89, almost 90 degrees here, and I can see that my new image is 90 degrees rotated to this image. So I'm just going to move things over so I give myself a little bit more space. And now I'm going to do a reflection. In order to have a reflection, I need some kind of a mirror. So I'm going to, again, take my segment tool, and I'm going to create a mirror that goes down like that. And I'm going to mark that as my mirror. And I do that by double-clicking on it. And you see the little indications that something's happened. So that's going to be, and I'm going to mark as a mirror. So there it is as my mirror. And if I take my item and I want to transfer it, I want to reflect it, and there is my reflection. And if I take my original, all these things are moving because they're all related to my original piece. This is my original translation. This is my rotation. And so now I'll color this piece here a different color so that we can see my reflection. And here's my reflection in blue. And we can see if I move my original piece over, it moves a distance aside. Down, it moves down, up, my reflection moves over. As I move my original closer and closer to my mirror, my reflection gets closer and closer to my mirror. And so there's some of the interesting properties of a reflection. We notice that all these other things move because they're all related to my original object or shape, my little flag here. That's in my orange shape here. And so there we have my translation over and sideways. Here I have my rotation, and here I have my reflection across my mirror. So now I'm going to do the same transformations except on my Cartesian grid here, and so my coordinate plane. So we're going to take a look at some of the coordinates. So what I've got is my triangle ABC, and if I move my grid over, I notice that it gives me it's 4 over and 8 up. If I move it up to here, it's 12 over and 12 up, 8 over and 8 up, and it's marked on the grid, so 6 over 8 up. So it gives me the coordinates of each of my points. So there's my coordinates for A, B, and C. So I've marked my y-axis as my mirror, and I want the computer to now reflect. Oops, sorry. I take my item and I mark it, and I want it to reflect it, and it reflects it across the y-axis. And so here's my mirror, and here's my new item. And if I was to change this over to here, we can see that my reflection also changes as well. And so now I'm going to get the computer to print out the coordinates for the reflected points. And then they are there. So this is point A, this would be called A prime. And notice that it is the exact same height, but now it's over at -6. And I'll have the computer print it out for us. There they are. So it has the same height of 8, but now instead of being a +6, it's now a -6. My B, instead of being 10 over and 6 up, is now -10 over, but 6 up. And if I change this diagram here, if I change my original, notice that my reflection changes and the coordinates change appropriately. So instead of being at +4 and -6 down, it's now at -4 and -6 down. So there it is with my y-axis being my plane or my mirror. So now I've marked my x-axis as my mirror, I've highlighted it, and I ask it to reflect. And there it is there, and I'll have it label. And so here is my reflection. So my point C is reflected across the x-axis, my B is reflected across my x-axis, and my A is reflected across my x-axis. And my coordinates will be printed out as well. And there's my coordinates. So my C is 2 over, and my it's 4 over and 2 up, and now it's 4 over and 2 down. So now we can see that my x values haven't changed at all. They're still in alignment to one another. My A was over here at 6 over. It's now at 6 over, but it's instead of being 8 up, it's now 8 down. So when we reflect across the y-axis, my x values change. When I reflect across my x-axis, my y values change. For my translation here, I'm going to start here and go to here, and I'm now going to mark that as my vector as we did before. So now I take my item that I want to move and I want to transform it. I want to translate it along my marked vector, and I translate it. And there it is there, and I'll change its color just so that we can see it a little easier. And there is my new translation. if I change my vector and I move it over here, we can see that it's just sliding it straight across, and it's moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grid spots across. It moves it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 grid spots horizontally. And it'll also print out my coordinates for me. So each one of these grids is worth a certain amount. So they're going up by ones. So if we take a look at this one, my original here at point C, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my coordinate C4. It's now at C14 because this is moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So my translation says move it 10 spaces to the right. And so my 4 is now a 14, my 10 is now a 20, and my 6 is now a 16. If we asked it to do the same thing, except going vertically, it says go up 1, 2, so this is going up 1, 2 as well. And if we wanted to make it translate up on an angle like this, we now know that it's going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my y values are going to change 4 places. So this was at 2, now it's going to be up here at 6. My a was at 8, now it's going to go up 4, so now here is at 12. But I've also asked it to move over to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so it was at 4 for my C point, it's now over here at 12. It was at 10, it's now over here at 18, and it was at 6, it's now over there at 14. So not only have I changed my y value, but I've also changed my x value by going off on an angle like this. And so we can talk about the translations that take place on the coordinate plane and how it converts and how it changes its coordinates. So we've talked about translations, or our slides, our rotations around a point, and we've also talked about reflections. Now I haven't done rotations around the point with our coordinates, but I don't think that's necessarily in up to grade 8 or 9 at least, so I'm not going to include that in our videos, and if you want some more, email me and I can put some more on there for you.